Welcome all to Dominant Mets Nation. Wow, this is actually the earliest I've had a live stream in probably a very, very long time. So glad to be here, but unfortunately, I wish it was on better circumstances. The New York Mets today had a grand opportunity, an opportunity to slay their demons in the Atlanta Braves, but more importantly, they had an opportunity to sweep a very, very important series. They had a very good past two games. And you know what? Everybody was feeling good. Mets fans were feeling good. You get a great pitching performance a couple of nights ago. Then you get followed up with I'd say a very good pitching performance from Clay Holmes. Then you got David Peterson on the mound today, right? So you have the advantage in all three matchups. You kick dirt on the Atlanta Braves. Everybody is expecting a good outcome today. And the New York Mets do exactly what they've been doing the last couple months. Every time you expect they're going to win, they lose. Every single damn time you expect the team to win. They're playing good. Everything's going their way. Get a loss. Get a loss. It's every single time. Now, folks, we are building towards the playoffs. We are going down the stretch run. This team has yet to prove that they can win when they need to. They have yet to prove that. Now they have a very big series coming up tomorrow with Philadelphia, and you got Kodai Senga on the mound. Would have been nice to take today's game. Now, today's game, you had David Peterson, good pitching performance, very good pitching performance. Through 5, he allowed no runs. But, the thing is, just like the Mets, when they need to get a win, you got to get the win. David Peterson needed a ground ball in the 6th inning and couldn't get that important ground ball. The Braves would score 2 runs. That tied the game. And you know what? The New York Mets have done this over and over. They jumped out to a 2-0 lead early on off of the back of a homer from Swaggy V, and that Mark Vientos. Is he finally turning back the clock to last year? Because that's probably the only positive I could take out of this game. The offense went to sleep today. Went to sleep. You didn't have those important hits. The New York Mets were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. 0 for 6. 0 for 6. So, you know what? The New York Mets, if they continue to not come through, obviously the goal is to win the World Series. I'm not seeing it right now. I'm really not seeing it. Anytime we build that momentum, that positive momentum, we take 10 steps backwards. Now, Gregory Soto, he's our best reliever, right? He's been the most successful guy. Now, in the 8th inning, it really felt like he was overthrowing. It really felt like he was overthrowing. His fastball, he'd throw it in the middle of the plate. The next pitch would be a foot outside. So he really had trouble controlling the fastball today. Hit a guy. That hit by pitch killed us. Bases loaded. Tried to make a pitch. Threw a high fastball to Jurickson Profar, and Profar almost knew the pitch was coming. Literally swung at a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, made decent contact, hit a little line drive to center field. Mullins came in on the ball, and honestly, even I believe Todd Zeal on the postgame show says, in that type of situation, you got to dive. You got to dive. It's 2-2. You got 2 outs. The bases are loaded. You got to put your body on the line. Then, one questions, why is even Cedric Mullins in the game in center field? You much rather have a defensive stud like Tyrone Taylor. And, here's the thing. Tyrone Taylor made that phenomenal play yesterday. Phenomenal play. Why have him in center field today after making a play like that? Why have your best defensive center fielder in the game, in a tight game, in a game where you need? Why? It makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. But again, this is where I go back to, Carlos Mendoza trying to appease certain veterans. Now, you got a guy like Mullins, who I believe is a team player. If you want him to play left field, the guy could play center field. I don't see why he can't play left field. Is it that difficult? A center fielder can't move over to left field? I think we try to overanalyze it too much. So you can't get over that. You don't put Tyrone Taylor out there. Tyrone Taylor, I believe, would have stood a lot better chance to make that play. And, there were other situations. Again, we were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. So offensively, we didn't do the job. In the ninth inning, we had our opportunities as well. When the Braves jumped out to that 4-2 lead, the Mets, they didn't fold in the ninth inning. There was a chance for the New York Mets to put some runs on the board. The inning started off. You had Iglesias in the game. You got to see Brandon Nimmo. Haven't seen him all weekend. Welcome to the show, Brandon Nimmo. Comes in. He flies out deep to left field. And honestly, when he made contact and he hit the ball oppo, I was shocked it went that far. It was literally 5 feet from going over the fence. All right, make good contact. It's still an out. It's a deep fly ball out. Next batter up, you got Cedric Mullins. And Cedric Mullins, I like his swing. I like his attitude. Hits a nice, sharp single to right field. He pulled the ball to Ronald Acuna. So you're in business. You got one man on base. You got one out. And you got the top of the lineup coming up. So I'm feeling positive, and I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, this is going to be a good opportunity for Juan Soto to actually make some Mets magic. All right, next batter up, you got Francisco Lindor. Francisco is having a good at-bat, taking some good pitches, gets a ball out over the plate, singles to right field. And folks, we are in business. First and second, you got Juan Soto coming up to the plate, top of the ninth inning, 2-game winning streak on the line, or 3-game winning streak on the line, potential 3-game winning streak. And now you got Juan Soto's big moment. First 2 pitches to Juan Soto, right over the plate. That's sometimes this is one of the situations where I get upset with Juan Soto. I mean, I feel this is an opportunity where a guy with Juan Soto's back control and plate discipline, I want him jumping all over that first pitch. I want him jumping all over it, because if you are a pitcher and you're pitching to Juan Soto in the ninth inning, you can get strike one automatically, because Juan Soto is never going to swing at that pitch. If you want Juan Soto, you got to swing. Well, he doesn't. 0-1, 0-2. Now Juan Soto is in choke-up mode. When you choke up, you don't have as much power, and he was just looking to put bat on ball. So right then and there, I would consider our best all-around hitter. We lost him as an opportunity to go 3-run homer. I mean, folks, he hasn't hit a 3-run homer. Only solo shots and only 2-run shots. So there is something to his strategy. Every time he gets the 2 strikes, he goes choke-up mode. And I will give him credit. The hit that he had a nice piece of hitting. He goes opposite field. He hits a nice bloop single over the shortstop. Francisco Lindor went to second, and Cedric Mullins scored. And folks, we were more than in business. It is 4-3 right now. 4-3, and you have a runner in scoring position. And you have the polar bear up and Jeff McNeil. So Pete Alonso comes up. And Pete has been, in my opinion, struggling as of late. Last couple of games, we've been winning really in spite of Pete, and that's fine. Pete, has had his moments. Today he went 0 for 5. Bryce Elder is a guy that you should really pound. I mean, this is a guy with a 6 ERA, folks, a 6 ERA. So it is extremely frustrating not hitting with runners in scoring position, and you are doing it against the team that's been struggling, against the pitcher that's been struggling and that is below average. So, folks, I think of it like this. This is how I think about it. You can't beat the Nationals when you need to beat the Nationals. And then you can't beat the lowly Braves and their lowly pitcher when you need to. So again, I say this is a horrific loss, and I say this is one of the worst losses of the season because once again, it displays the Mets' inability to win when they need to win. That's what it does. Full display. And then we know the New York Mets are a team that, they're very mental. If this is loss can turn into 2 losses, and 2 losses can turn into 3 losses. They are very mentally unstable. This team is very mentally unstable. And this is why I was hoping if you get that big winning streak, okay, maybe good things can happen. You get hot down the stretch, hot at the right time. So, okay, so now you have Alonso up. And Alonso, again, I'm not feeling too confident about, but he's got a runner in scoring position. He doesn't have to do much. We're not looking for a homer. But again, in my opinion, he took a home run type of swing, and he ends up popping it to the shortstop, Vidal Brujan. Vidal goes out to short left field, catches the ball. Infield fly was called, and now you got 2 outs. You got 2 outs. The Mets are still down by 1 run, obviously, and you have an other opportunity with Jeff McNeil coming to the plate. Now, Jeff McNeil, he is notorious for jumping on the first pitch. And it was said, I think Keith Hernandez or whoever was broadcasting, Gary Cohen, said, all we need is a hit. We don't need a homer. We don't need you to hit a deep fly ball. We just need a piece of hitting. So I'm hoping, all right, classic Jeff McNeil, go Oppo, get a blue pit. That's fine. But in my opinion, on the second pitch, it's an inside fastball, kind of in Jeff McNeil's, wheelhouse. But Jeff McNeil tried to jack one, in my opinion, tried to jack a home run and pops it up to the first baseman. So in a situation where you have your number 3 and your number 4 hitter up, they don't even get the ball out of the outfield. And that caps a very poor offensive day. So I mean, it is what it is. The Mets had opportunities. At the end of the day, these are winnable games. That you have to win. And like I said, one of the biggest things is the Mets aren't winning games they should win. Another big, very scary thing is the Mets after the 8th inning, when the Mets are trailing, I didn't even realize they're 0-52. They're 0-52. It's, you can't even make this up. You'd figure they get lucky once in a while, but they're literally undefeated in not coming through every single time after the 8th inning. So again, the Mets have to display fortitude. They have to display fight. And that's what you need if you're going to be a successful playoff team. And they are certainly lacking that aspect, that component of a winning team right now. Last year, you remember, you never thought you were out of it last year. You had the magic, you had the mojo, you had the vibe. This year, no, I haven't seen it. I'm not seeing it. Let me just say hello to everyone. I know we are live streaming a lot earlier in the day. So hopefully I have some, I got a lot of familiar faces, but CeeLo, I haven't seen you in quite a long time. How's it going? Will, my guy, back to reality. And then, this is what I'm forced to do. We are forced to scoreboard watch. I don't want to worry about that. But now if we do scoreboard watch, the D-backs lost to the Reds. And, the D-backs dominated yesterday. The Reds were eventually going to win. So our 2.5 game lead in the wild card standings is sliced to 1 game and a half. Folks, I mean, come on. We've had a perfect opportunity. And you see, look at the Phillies. Good teams beat bad teams. The Phillies, they have a good team, but they're dealing with adversity. Zach Wheeler, their best pitcher, their ace, he's out. He's done for the year. But the Phillies continue to beat up on bad teams that they should. They defeated the Nationals again. The lead in the division is up to 7. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to kiss that, goodbye. I mean, I'm still call me crazy, But I'm still thinking, all right, you sweep the Phillies, you slice that lead in half. Now you're within reason. But again, the more and more I think like that, the more and more delusional I'm probably sounding. Danny, great point. Danny, you're right. This team refuses to have killer instinct. The way Mullins won't play the corners. Okay, the killer instinct thing, I 100% agree right now. And also with that, I'm still waiting for Juan Soto to have his Mets moment. I thought maybe we were going to have a Mets moment. You had, Francisco Lindor have a bunch of Mets moments last year. Lindor, Vientos, the rookie last year, had Mets moments. Juan Soto, there's the big debate. Is he having a good season? Is he having a mediocre season? Is he bad? I mean, he's a very good player and he's been very useful, but he's nowhere near the $800 million man that we signed. That you give $800 million to the best player in baseball. He's been far from that. Yes, he's been useful, but he hasn't really had that Mets special moment. And again, he hasn't had a 3-run homer. I mean, that's ridiculous, or a grand slam. So, that's what we were waiting for. I was waiting for that in the 9th inning. I'm like, all right, perfect. Let's get aggressive, Juan. But again, you can't let 2 strikes go by. I mean, this is back to Little League. You got one extra, it's only 1 out. So even if you somehow make it out, you still have Pete Alonso behind you. But, again, I'm complaining that he didn't have that big homer. I mean, he still got hit. But again, that's where we come to killer instinct. Will, again, you keep writing. You guys should have followed my lead and folded a long time ago. I mean, Will, we're not folding. We're not giving up. We still have a game and a half lead in the wild card, and it's been that. I think it was sliced down to a half game lead a couple of days ago. So I mean, it's actually been in more dire straits. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, the New York Mets. I think we're extremely inspired. Whole team, whole organization, and fan base, for that matter, were inspired by Nolan McClain. No doubt about it. Now back to reality. The Mets today, they switched Brandon Sproat, who pitches for AAA Syracuse. They put him in the bullpen. So his last 9 starts, Brandon Sproat has been extremely successful, pitching in 48 innings, 2.05 ERA, 57 strikeouts, 0.85 whip. So again, it was announced before Syracuse's game that Brandon Sproat would no longer be a starter, but he'd be coming out of the bullpen. So everybody now is thinking, oh, are the Mets going to bring him up? Is he going to be another special arm out of the bullpen? Possibly. But also, how is he going to do out of the bullpen? So today was his first performance out of the bullpen. Mr. Brandon Sproat did not, he didn't do very well, folks. Just plain and simple. He pitched in a little 3 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 7 runs, 5 of them earned, 2 walks, 4 Ks. Not a good performance out of the bullpen. I know you can make a lot of excuses. This guy's not used to it, this and that. I mean, the guy was dealing. The guy was on his hottest streak since last year. All right, you know what? He's doing really well in the role he's in. New York Mets, switch him to a bullpen guy. And then, that was years and years ago. I remember Jabba Chamberlain. He said that's what really thrown him off. I think it's really a big issue when you suddenly switch guys to the bullpen. Suddenly switch guys to the bullpen. Certain guys can do it. Certain guys can't. Brandon Sproat thus far has shown you that, hey, you know what? Maybe you might have to think twice. Because, he got shelled. He certainly got shelled. I'm hoping that's not the case going forward. But if you listen to our live stream last night, I said that the number one guy next to bring up as a starter is not Brandon Sproat. Rather, it is Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong has been extremely nasty and filthy in AA and also in his last start in AAA. So, maybe the Mets are going to be ultra aggressive, like I want them to be. Jonah Tong, bring him up as a starter, and Brandon Sproat, bringing him up as a bullpen option. Or, you bring him up as a bullpen option and, you put him kind of in that piggyback role after Clay Holmes and Kodai Senga. We got to see. We got to see. Again, just reporting that the first start wasn't so great. I always miss the chat, but let me just look real quick. So again, I'm going to say hello real quick to everyone: Will, Robbie, Danny, CeeLo, Madeline, uh, bad eyes, Buzz Bass, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Hopefully, all is well. ACJ. Okay, so I think I got everybody. But hopefully everybody is, doing well. I know the Mets right now are leaving a lot to be desired. Tomorrow, you never know what will happen. Kodai Senga, he's a huge key cog. I mean, you need Kodai Senga. You need him to be an effective pitcher. And this is what I talk about, putting the rotation together, because you need a strong 5-6 man front right now. We need to start getting streaks together. This is not effective to win 2, lose 2, win 3, lose 4. I mean, you're just displaying to everybody that you're a 500 team. Right now, we have to be setting ourselves up for the playoffs. We need to be getting everybody on a positive note. Like, that's why I like, you got to get a guy like Mark Vientos going. It looks like he's getting into a good rhythm. And again, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Mark. Loving going oppo. I mean, you throw the ball inside, going with the pitch. He is showing flashes of last year. Brett Beatty in the last week, he's shown you, hey, I'm here as well, and I also have talent. I mean, folks, how many of us wanted Luis Roberts, give Brett Beatty away, give Mark Vientos away? I mean, to me, I was one beating the drum. I'm like, no, you don't give a guy like Mark Vientos away, who had a magical year last year and has showed how special he is. And I know everybody said, well, he doesn't play defense. Well, the kid is a dynamic offensive player, even if he's a DH. How many DHs we've had since the DH was instituted, as talented as Mark Vientos? I mean, folks, Vogelbach, I mean, it is just so hard to find a talent like that. So even if you can plug up DH position, guy, possibly Pete Alonso backup insurance next year, you can have him as a possible backup for Pete, and then he could play third base as well. I like it. I like the 3-man Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, those young options. And for that matter, I like the Mets' homegrown options. Look at our whole team. For the first time in such a long time, you could really count on this whole team offense and now pitching as being homegrown. And that's pretty cool, from Pete Alonso to the Squirrel, not the top option, but Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat, Jonah Tong, Brandon Nimmo. We got a lot of homegrown guys. And, I'd love to win a championship with that many homegrown guys on our team. Danny, you're right. Mauricio is sickening to watch. Get him off the team. Just have Acuna on the team. I mean, Mauricio, he's really a rookie. He's really a rookie. Rookies go through those moments where they are sickening to watch, where they make silly plays, where they chase balls that are ridiculously out of the strike zone. But the fact of the matter is, he just sometimes shows flashes of how great he can be. And I remember they were asking Keith Hernandez a couple of weeks ago, hey, this guy's streaky, but he has a lot of potential. And I forget if it was him or the other analyst on another station said, hey, he's a guy that if the Mets ended up trading, You could see him hitting 25 home runs, 30 stolen bases, playing to be an all-star. I mean, he's got talent and he's got tools. Yes, does he drive you crazy? That's normal for guys who are in that rookie status. But then again, you got guys like Brett Beatty, Vientos. Those guys have to step up, and those guys have to, kind of level the playing field when the other guy is not doing well. And then you also put Danny. You also said Taylor has more range and a better arm than Mullen. It's not even close. It's really not even close. If you compare the defensive metrics of Tyrone Taylor and Cedric Mullins, and I like Cedric Mullins. I wanted Cedric Mullins. I advocated for the Mets to trade for him, and I like him as a player, as a hitter, but it's not even close. Not even close in terms of their defensive capabilities. Jose Siri, all right, defensively, all right, yeah. If you want to play him over Tyrone Taylor in certain situations, that's fine. They both are dynamic. They both have great arms. They both have great range. They both have great defensive metrics. Now, this year, if you look at Cedric Mullins, doesn't have anywhere near the arm. Today's play didn't really involve the arm, but the overall range is not even close. We saw yesterday, and not only the range, the overall ability to make that great play. Tyrone Taylor, he's a guy that has that ability. He has that ability to lay out. He has that ability to make diving catches. He has that ability to cover ground. The range is better. Cedric Mullins, his numbers, his metrics went down, defensively. And he was asked about that. The Mets were asked about that. Like, why did his range take such a dive from years past? And I guess he had a hamstring injury earlier this year. Now, it's supposedly all recovered. That's why he started off poorly. But still, you got a guy that had a hamstring injury. You got a guy that's already, without the hamstring injury, already inferior with the range and the running. So, I mean, it made all the sense in the world for Tyrone Taylor to be patrolling center field in a monumentally important game. And Carlos Mendoza, again, was catering toward Cedric Mullins because he's a center fielder. That's a little too much. It's a little too much. Carlos Mendoza continues to cater to certain players in situations. Sometimes it works out. I complained about him constantly catering to Lindor for 2 months when he was slumping. I said, hey, if the guy's hurt, do something. Put him on the sidelines for a week. Make sure he gets better. Carlos Mendoza stuck to his guns. He said, no, despite him not being good and being horrible, he's out there every day, first guy in batting practice. I'm going to keep playing him. He's part of the solution. Well, that's a different scenario. That's a different situation. But it kind of just shows you that Carlos Mendoza, in certain situations, he will be awful stubborn. But again, you just got to be a bit more flexible and do what's best for the team. And again, I'm gonna go to a lot of comments. Madeline, same old garbage. Unfortunately, yes, I hate Stearns. We got to hear those I hate Stearns comments. I mean, and here's the thing: if you're the New York Mets, when you lose, there's going to be negativity from everywhere. The fan base, the players, the reporters. Although I don't think the reporters are as negative as they probably should be. A lot of the reporters these days are buddy with the team, and I don't just get that. I don't get that because us fans, we want to know, we want answers. We want answers. We don't want excuses. And there's too many excuses, even during the game when players make bad plays or bad decisions. Just a small example. Yesterday, McNeil in the fourth inning, it was Acuna was at first base. Ball was hit to him. Acuna was already past him, like he was already past where McNeil was playing at second base. McNeil threw the ball to second base, and Acuna was called out. They reviewed the play, and Acuna was called safe. And then instead of saying, well, McNeil should have went for the short out at first, all the broadcasters and everybody was saying, well, you got to give Acuna credit. He's a speedster. That's going to happen. No, I was told, if you got to take the short out. And yesterday it didn't matter because it was a blowout win, but it led to one extra run scoring. Those are the type of plays that we have to make if we're going to make go down. This run, make a run. You gotta be tight. You can't give the other team opportunities to have extra outs. Today was a close game. Plays hurt us. 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position hurt us. Tyrone Taylor not being in center field hurt us. Gregory Soto, in my opinion, he was overthrowing. His control wasn't there. He hurt us. Brett Beatty not making that play in the eighth inning as well. The line drive up the middle that hit his glove. And, here's the thing. Again, that's another example of people making excuses for the player. Everybody's saying it was a hard hit ball. It was a difficult play. It happened. No, I mean, he's a major league player. It hit his glove. And it's not like he's the pitcher. It's not like, he's 60 feet away. He's a significant distance from the batter. It hit his glove. And again, that was another play I felt that we're just giving the players, just a pass. You don't give the players a pass on plays that should be made. And again, that if that play is made, Jurickson Profar doesn't even get an opportunity to hit with bases loaded and 2 outs. Buzz Bash, you're right. Dom, it's nice to have one of these not in the middle of the night. Yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. My wife agrees with you. I'm pretty sure a lot of you agree. It's been pretty tough because a lot of nights I'm working till 10 or 11, and I'm like, all right, I want to jump on. Then I do a little prep. By the time I do prep, it's like almost midnight. So it turns out to be late. But I 100% agree. I'd much rather be on at a reasonable time. So thank you everybody for being in here right now. It does mean a lot. And then Buzz, you're also right. Having 0 wins when trailing after 8 is just a clear sign this team will not go far. I think it just shows a lot about a team. The strength of a team, especially the mental strength of a team that comes from behind, especially late. But the fact that the Mets don't have 1 win in 52 chances when trailing after 8, I mean, that's just insane. Like I'm like in the 9th inning. Okay, it's a 1-run game. We have only 1 out. We have a man in scoring position. And, I'm almost like, wow, if we win, this will be our first win in 52 games in this particular situation. I mean, you're right. You're right. It just tells you, those type of stats, those type of metrics tells you something about the team. Not in a good way, unfortunately. CeeLo, very nice hand. The pink hello sign. Hello. Whoa, Robbie. Stearns is Stearns. His nickname is Epler on steroids. I mean, those guys have way different styles. But I mean, if you're looking at results, I mean, the results are the results. And I was kind of saying it's this 2025 kind of had a lot of similarities to 2023. And Buzz, you're also right. The division is over. I mean, I'm still not giving up. Let's, you know what? Let's see how we play against the Phillies. I'm probably delusional. I'm still hoping that we could sweep the Phillies and cut this lead to 4. It would have been just so nice to win today. 6-game lead, it would have been. We would have still had a 2.5-game lead on the Reds, but unfortunately, didn't happen. You got the Phillies have a 7-game lead on the Mets, and you have the Reds 1.5 games behind the Mets. It is what it is. Now we're going to go play Philly, And that's fine. That's fine. Let's play the top teams. I feel that the Mets play up when they're playing better competition. We lose to the teams like the Nationals. We lose to teams like the Braves who are not playing well. And last year down the stretch, that was the big worry. The Mets have a hard schedule. The Mets have the most difficult schedule. I'm like, no, let's bring it on. Let's have the Mets prepare for the playoffs in the best way by playing teams who will be in the playoffs. So I felt that it actually built our confidence. It prepared everybody to play at a high level, and every game last year from late August till October was a playoff game, and it prepared us well when we were in very important late game situations against the Braves, against the Brewers, against the Phillies. The Mets were mentally strong and they came through time after time after time. This year, not so much. But again, I'm going to continue to say this: you got to get hot at the right time. If you had a slump in late June, August means nothing. Means nothing. September is crunch time right now. We're still in prime position to make the playoffs. We might not be in the seeding that we wanted to be. Certainly not the seeding that I would have preferred. But nonetheless, we've seen in years past that if you're in the dance, it doesn't matter how you got in. It matters how you perform once you're in the dance. And also, too, I'd rather be the underdog. I'd rather hit people when they're not looking. I'd rather that situation come. And the fact that we got a Nolan McLean who can pitch 2 games in a 7-game series, folks, this kid is damn nasty. Now I'm expecting a lot of that out of him as a rookie. And I never thought I'd be saying that 3 weeks ago. But seeing how dominant he's been in his first 2 starts, you can just think like that. Now I'll see in the next 5 weeks how he plays. But if he continues to pitch anything like this, he will be a nightmare for teams in the playoffs. And then if we can get anything from Asanga, you got 2 guys who are high-level pitchers, plus David Peterson, who has really done a great job as of keeping us in many of these games. Then plus you have this offense who's shown you in the last 3 weeks that they have the ability to be elite and dynamic at points. But again, the offense has to come through and be much more consistent. All right, let me get to some comments real quick. Robbie, you're right. When Manaya and Senga struggle, bring up the prospects, put them on rehab, and get crisp young pitching, good pitching. I'm sick of Stearns. Last game, fire his ass. You know what? Right now, you got to be aggressive. You can't really say, let's wait for Manaya. Let's give him 2 more starts. Let's wait for Senga. No, we don't have 30-something games left, around 30 games left. We don't have time. The time has passed. Right now, you have to play any move that you think will put you in best position to win. And that example is why I'm upset that you didn't put Tyron Taylor in center field. It's every single move of every single game of every single inning. You gotta have your best situation at every time. And I know it's tiresome. It's grueling. It's not easy. Mendoza's going to have to be on his A plus game. But you know what? This is why you pay managers money. This is why David Stearns had confidence in this man. And me, I like Mendoza. I like him as a person. I like him as how he. I just say his relationships with the players. Good. He has a nice relationship with some of the players. Do they always play for him at a high level? No. But, he has a nice relationship with most of the players. But in game decision wise, I don't think that's his strong suit. I don't. I really don't. So, whether David Stearns get this guy, surrounds him with the right amount of help, you got to make sure that every in-game move is of the highest level and that you are optimizing your talent. And, we haven't been doing that. We've been catering to certain players. And Robbie, you wrote, if you don't have the pitching, you won't win. Period. It's a 70 win season over and out. Well, luckily, we're close to 70 wins. So hopefully, it's going to be 70 plus wins. Okay, you know what? And let me bring this one up too, because again, everybody's making some great comments. Another great comment. They take selfies on home runs and singles. What kind of garbage is this? Um, what kind of garbage? Time to focus on the next play. I mean, honestly, folks, okay. I'm a little sick of that too. I mean, you've won nothing. In fact, a lot of these games we've lost, and everybody's laughing on. If you want to do that after the game and you win, that's one thing. But again, there's a lot of time, energy wasted on these celebrations. You didn't see this years ago. You really didn't. That really does bother me as well. It really does. It really, you have a team that's essentially losing, and you're celebrating like you won the World Series. It just really makes no sense. Happy Sunday, Daniel. Again, I always love your positivity. Thank you for bringing it. Oh, CeeLo, happy Sunday to you as well. All right, we got. I'm up to Crispy's comment. What's up, Dominant? This is the weirdest year I can ever remember. There's still a playoff team while wildly underachieving. Season will come down to the 3-game series in Cincy, September 5th to the 7th. Well, I mean, obviously it should be a very big series. That's the team that's right on your heels. And we've discussed this in the past. The biggest thing that the Mets have going to them, there's one big fact that the Mets have going for them. There's no other teams other than Cincy that they have to worry about. That's the only team. So if Cincy falters, or if they go into slump, or if they're just not as good as they need to be a playoff team, the Mets are just in luck because they don't have to worry about. They don't have to fend off the D-backs. They don't have to fend off the Giants. They don't have to fend off the Cardinals. I mean, those teams just aren't good enough. There's only one team. So, and then you got the other 5 teams already in front of the Mets. So just by sheer fact of mathematics and bad competition, the Mets, are kind of in luck. And that's, how I've assessed the situation in the last couple of weeks, and being very upset, very disappointed, not having confidence in the team. Now, you know what? Looking perspective wise, you get in this next month and a half, you build your team up so that when you're in the playoffs, you have the best possible squad. And that's why I think the Mets are like, all right, let's position Brandon Sproat in the bullpen to make a bullpen better. And then possibly you bring up a Jonah Tong to take another rotation spot. And let's not forget this. Tyler McGill, he's going to be coming back pretty soon too. Now I know a lot of you folks would probably want to see the younger kids than Tyler McGill, but Tyler McGill has been looking good thus far in his rehab starts, and he's a guy that has decent stuff. 96 mile per hour fastball, good with chase rate, ground ball rate. So I mean, he's a guy that has potential. It's just that he's got to have control. He's got to attack the zone. He's got to throw strikes. So they're going to utilize that weapon. He's signed with the Mets for another 2 years, so he's going to be here, and you have him available. So that's also another factor that the Mets have in their plans. Will, I'm going to get to your comment because you made a pretty good comment. Yeah, Juan, I mean, this is a positive point. Not good enough for me, but I like the positivity. You put we lost a rough game today, but we got a series win. That is true. That is true. I like the positivity. Um, but again, we've just done so much losing where it's just not good enough at this point. All right. So, Will, you wrote, all you guys did was complain about Taylor's bat. Now we're missing his defense now. I mean, the thing about Taylor was he was never a bat guy. I mean, he was always a fourth outfielder, a defensive replacement. His best attributes were always his defense anyway. None of us were clamoring, oh, you got to put Taylor in there for his bat. He was always praised for his defense. So, I mean, so that makes all the sense in the world that we would complain about it because that's the reason why we want Taylor. That's the reason why we see him as valuable. And then also, too, if we're being really honest, Taylor right now, since he's been put in the fourth outfield position and he's not being exposed every day in and day out in the center field, being a starting center fielder, he's been much, much better. He's reminding me of how he hit last year and played last year. He's fresher. He had a 3-hit game the other day. So I think Taylor, a guy like him, some guys are not meant to play every day. He's a guy, I think that's one of those guys, and he's a lot better in that fourth outfielder role and late defensive replacement. Okay, so I'm right now. What I want to do is I want to look at the Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to check out their schedule. Let's check out their schedule. All right. So right now, we're facing the Phillies starting tomorrow. While we're doing that, you have Cincinnati. They're going to be playing the Dodgers. So they have the Dodgers 3-game series. Then Cincy will be playing the Cardinals for a 3-game series. So you 3 tough games against the Dodgers. The Cardinals, I mean, that's a bit of a rivalry, a central rivalry. The Cardinals, not the greatest team, but, they could win games. Then they're playing the Blue Jays, tough game. So you got 6 out of 9 games tough. Then they're playing the Mets, tough game, or should be tough games. Then they're playing the Padres, tough games. So you got 9, 12, 12 games that are tough. Then they're going to be playing the Oakland A's. Then they're playing the Cardinals. Then they're going to be playing the Cubs, tough series, 1, 2, 3, 4 games against the Cubs, 3 games against the Pirates, and then 3 games against the Brewers. So, folks, looking at the Reds' schedule, it's not easy, folks. It is not easy. They're playing the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Toronto Blue Jays. They're playing the Mets. They're playing the Padres. They're playing a lot of playoff teams. They're playing a lot of good teams. And then the teams that they are playing that are not considered great, the Cardinals, those teams are teams that can get wins. So, if you're a Mets fan, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a shoo-in. The Mets have it's a fairly decent schedule as well. But there's really no doubt that since he's going to have to really play at a higher level, that they're going to have to turn up their play, because all those other teams are playing for positioning, they're playing for seeding, they're playing, obviously they're playoff teams. Nobody's going to really be mailing it in. So, I feel good. I feel good looking at that schedule. But again, it's going to come down to pitching. New York Mets have shown hitting wise that we have enough firepower. We got enough firepower up and down the lineup. 21 hits a couple days ago, 6 homers yesterday, and then obviously today we crapped the bed. But again, up and down the lineup, Lindor getting hot, Soto, Alonso, you get him going at the right time. McNeil, I got to give McNeil credit. In the last couple of games since he's been injured, he's been doing a lot better. Vientos, he's getting hot. Beatty's getting hot. Torrens, Hayden Sanger the other day swung the bat extremely well. Cedric Mullins, he's starting to swing the bat a lot better. So the offense, I am not worried about. Again, they have to be more consistent. And I also think the pitching inspires the offense. If Kodai Senga starts going on a run, if you get, Sean Manaea, you got to get something out of him. I think one of the biggest situation you got to figure out is Senga and Manaea. And Senga, you got to figure out, if you can kind of get him back to that six man. You want to definitely do the 6-man rotation, because he's coming off of pitching 5 innings last year. We've spoke about that a million times. So I think if you get him more rest, he'll be more effective. It's not that far from when Senga was pitching dominantly in the beginning of the year. Let's not forget that Senga had, one of the best ERAs in the majors for the first 80 innings pitched. In the last 30, 40 innings, yes, he hasn't had good performances or great performances, but I don't think he's that far away. I think it has something to do with the fact that he's pitching a lot. Now, Manaea is a whole different can of worms. Manaea right now, he's got to prove that he could be an effective major leaguer. That's how bad he's been and how hittable he's been, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people were really excited because in 3 innings, he struck out like 7 batters. That didn't excite me at all, because you get to the second, third time through the order, and he is one of the most hittable people probably the Mets have thrown out there in the last year. So you got to figure out how you can utilize this guy, or if there's some issue with him. I forgot who. No, Richard's not even here. But there's some people who are saying that he's injured, that he's got something wrong with his elbow. If that's the case, that's silly. The Mets shouldn't put him out there, which is why I have to believe there's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with the elbow, but then there would be no excuse. And then you ask Manaea in his post-game shows, they've asked him in the last couple of games, like, why have you been inconsistent? Why have you been getting negative results? And the thing that kills me is a couple of things. Manaea, all he does is smile, smirk, laugh, and then he tells you that he has no clue. So that's very worrisome. And then, I'm also, kind of a little upset too. The guy gets paid 3 years, $75 million. Last year, before the contract, he turns it up to a level he's never pitched at. And now this year, once he gets his money, he turns back into the number 4, number 5 starter that he's been his whole career. So, and that would be a huge mistake by Stearns if you get nothing from him and he resorts back to his number 4, number 5 status, which is, I think, He probably will. And then you couple that with the fact that Montas gave nothing, and you look back and say, "Hey, Stearns, honestly, really, you did nothing to the starting rotation besides taking a flyer on a converted reliever, Clay Holmes. Like this rotation added zero talent." CeeLo, the best Arizona iced tea. Yep, yep. I gotta check the stats. I gotta check the stats. I haven't checked this particular stat in a while. I see, there's a little debate in the comments about McNeil and his swinging at the first pitch. I remember when McNeil came when the first couple games, uh, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks of McNeil's stats, he had the highest percentage of swinging at the first pitch. Like I think MLB average is 45% of MLB players they'll swing at the first pitch, and then like Alonso was like he would swing at the first pitch like 20% of the time. Lindor was 20% of the time. Soto was like 28%. Maybe MLB. No, I'm sorry. MLB average was like 38%. Francisco Alvarez was like around 37%. And then when you looked at Jeff McNeil, he really skewed the chart because he swung at the first pitch 56% of the time. So, that was more or less an anomaly. And then his batting average swinging at the first pitch was quite low. So I made a point back then that was a huge problem, but I haven't looked at that particular stat in quite a while. But, if you look at law of averages, the MLB player, the average MLB player, does it only 38% of the time. If you're 20% over the average player, then you're either the best at swinging at the first pitch or you're doing something wrong. Again, I don't have the latest numbers, so I can't really make that judgment. But eye test, is McNeil getting a lot of hits on the first pitch? All right, folks. I'm going to actually wrap things up for now. I want to thank everyone for coming in early. I really do appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you all very soon. Let's go, Mets. We got a huge game tomorrow. Huge game with Philly. You got Senga on the mound. Hopefully, Kodai Senga turns back the clock to this year, last year, the year before that, when he was, really on another level. We will see. We will see. Just remember, Clay Holmes, whatever the Mets did in between starts, he looked a lot more effective as well. So, if he has that type of, reaction to the Mets plan, it'll be a positive. But I will speak to everybody soon. Have a great night, everyone.